back to the Whatnauts review show number 171, where each week we have a different story to talk about here on the show. Could be a comic book, a manga, a movie, a TV show, who knows? We rate it, we watch it, we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined, as always, by Melissa Wilkinson.
Hi.
Melissa, how's it going?
It's doing sweaty. I guess I'm okay. I had to run to the grocery store real quick before we sat down to record, and it keeps happening every year. I'm so sweaty. I feel like even if I go outside, I'm like, oh, it's not that hot. I come back and I'm just
else. Like, it happens every year. There's just this one day at the grocery store where there's everyone
you found me
there
on sweaty day. No, I'm just so damp for like 3 or 4 months.
Oh man, is it humid where you are? Because that's the worst thing. Where it's like, I've gotten sweaty, and now I'm just gonna be sweaty for the next like 3 hours and not stop.
That's how it goes. We're a humid place.
Okay, yeah, that's no fun. That's what it's like here in Virginia.
Yeah.
Too.
Maybe if I went to like New Mexico, I'd live a different life where I'd be less damp.
Maybe. My week has been pretty good. We got to record Crossplay yesterday, which is our video game podcast, and that was the first time that we were all back on the show since I was on my vacation. And that was a lot of fun. We had a blast. That was a good show indeed. But today, here on number 171 of the Whatnauts review show, we are here to not talk about us being sweaty and damp and stuff like that. We are here to talk about Stowaway, the Netflix original film, which I believe in Canada is available on Prime. Amazon Prime. They have the distribution rights to that in Canada. But let's see. This is a film that was written and directed by Joe Penna. I believe that is how you say their name. It's also co-written by Ryan Morrison, and then starring Anna Kendrick, Daniel Day Kim, Shamir Anderson, and Toni Collette. It's a pretty recent movie. April 22nd, I believe. 2021 is when it
brand new
came out. So yeah, pretty new. Now, Melissa, you got after me the other day.
I raised a qualm.
This. Yeah, you raised a qualm. What was your qualm with me? When
you
this
told me about this movie last week, you said it stars Anna Kendrick and Daniel Day Kim, which it does, both notable stars. You didn't mention to me that Toni Collette was also in it. She's 25% of the cast. She's top billed. I was like, it would have taken such little additional energy for you to also mention Toni Collette's name, and I was just kind of upset.
See, As a movie watcher, I'm not familiar with her and her work. I've seen her in Knives Out, but I don't like that was the first thing I saw her in, and I don't.
Knives Out is also
names.
16 people. Yeah,
right. So I had no idea who she is. I also, since I hadn't seen this until now, I didn't know how big the cast was or stuff like that.
It's 4 people.
I named 50% of the cast. So
you did.
I think I did all right.
Okay, right. We typically, it's not like when we did Knives Out that you named 50% of that cast.
Right, yeah.
We didn't get all the way down to Lakeith Stanfield.
But yeah, I'm interested to talk about this one. This is one. So I hadn't heard about this film. I just found it on Netflix as I was scrolling through, and it looked like, oh, space and astronauts. And I am a big fan of sci-fi stuff, so I was like, sure, let me watch the trailer to this. And I thought it had a really interesting premise. that there is this like 2-year manned
Mhm.
mission to Mars, and then all of a sudden, the 3-person team finds a fourth that has stowed away on the ship there, and I thought, oh, that's an interesting, because that can go in a million different directions. So I put that on my list, and yeah, that is the one that you ended up picking. Um, but yeah, I think I was expecting a certain thing, or not necessarily a certain thing, but I was expecting something that this movie ended up not being. Um,
Yeah.
which didn't catch me off guard, but it was one of those things like, huh, okay, this is the direction that they went with that. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. When
but
you pitched the movie to me, you said it's this very small space crew on this 2 years into mission to Mars. They find a stowaway. They have to figure out how to survive with the stowaway. And maybe there's questions about how the stowaway's doing there, and maybe if it's a sabotage mission. And I thought you were summarizing a plot synopsis you had read. Was it just right off the top of your head? Were you just imagining? Was that
this
your
is
maybe they do this?
this is what the trailer I felt led me to believe,
Really? Okay. Because
because
I
I
didn't
mean,
watch the
yeah,
trailer. I just clicked play.
it is one of those things, right? It's a space mission. They're going to space. So how does someone stow away in a ship
Yeah.
like that? Like, that's a big mystery. And yeah, in the trailer they show this scene where he like falls out of this compartment, and it
Yeah.
seemed like he's unconscious. So it's like, was he there on purpose? Was he
Hmm.
not? What, like, there it just, the whole thing just seemed like there was this mystery about it. Um, which, yeah, I guess, as we're kind of saying now, it's not a mystery. The
Yeah. Not
movie
not
plays
at
this
all.
very straightforward,
Yeah.
which
Like as
was
soon as they find
interesting.
him, like they barely ask any questions. It seems like he was part of the launch crew. I think he just hit his head on something, got a concussion, got knocked out, and then like some parts of the ship just got closed in around him, and like nobody found him, and he got sent to
Yeah,
space by
yeah,
accident. Yeah, as soon as they figure that out, there are no additional questions. They get right to problem solving. What do we do now that you're here? How do we get enough food? How do we get enough oxygen? How do we repair that part of the ship where you were stuck?
yeah. Um, yeah, so I think that about sums up the film and its
Yeah,
synopsis and stuff like that. So, general thoughts. What did you think of Stowaway?
I did like it. I feel like your pitch to me did uh, affect my
Maybe influence, yeah.
expectations of the movie. I did find myself being suspicious of people that by the end of the day I realized I had no reason to be suspicious about because this is a suspicionless movie. But I kind of appreciated that it was a movie that didn't have a twist beyond like the original premise, the title of the film. It's
Yeah,
just the straightforward problem solving survival story. It's tense, but it's not a thriller. Despite being in space, it's very down to earth. You would call this a
yeah.
sci-fi movie, but there's nothing fantastical about it.
Yeah, it's sci-fi realism, I guess you would say,
Yeah.
but it's a drama about a moral
Mhm.
dilemma of just like,
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
what the hell do we do now? Um, and they have to figure that stuff out, just how to survive. Um, but yeah, so I don't know. I thought this was okay. I don't think this was bad. I think it had some issues, but I think
Mhm.
for what it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I didn't walk away from it being like, this was awesome. Like, this was amazing. But I like it left me thinking. It left me just being like, like one of those things, just like very stoic, just like,
Yeah.
okay.
This, I
Yeah, like
had the same
I don't know.
reaction to this as I kind of did to The Vast of Night, which is a movie we watched last year that is
Yes.
also like a very small independent movie. It's about this tiny little town in New Mexico in the 1950s where it seems like aliens may be in the sky. There may be spaceships there, aliens may be coming to town. And it's a movie where I spent the whole time thinking it was going to have some sort of a Twilight Zone-y twist. And then it didn't. It was just a very
Yeah.
straightforward, a problem is approaching. What will you do? Like, there's no mystery, there's no
Yeah.
conspiracy, nothing. And it was slightly underwhelming, but also I appreciate that you picked one simple path and just executed it very well. And that's how I feel about this. The
Absolutely.
story could have gone to a much bigger place. The fact that it didn't is maybe slightly jarring just from what you've come to expect from other films, but there is something admirable about we're going to set very small goals and just execute them very well. And these were both
Yeah.
technically very impressive movies. Great tiny casts with great performances.
Absolutely. Yeah. The Vast of Night was gonna be one of my
Yeah.
recommendations that if you liked this, go check that one out. Um yeah, I think that's kind of all I have to say for spoiler free stuff. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, it's worth checking out, but it is also it's not like a fun action popcorn flick. It is very
No.
somber. It is
Mm.
kind of melancholy too. There is a
Mm.
sadness that I think this movie leaves you with. Um, but yeah, it's worth checking out, I
I think
believe.
so. Yeah.
Um, with that, we are going to take a quick break for some housekeeping, and then when we come back, we will get into spoilers and start discussing the film a little bit more in depth. So we will be
Hmm.
right back. We put a lot of hard work into the shows that we make, and yes, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and we'd love it if you would check them all out. You can find out more information on our website at thewhatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice. When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. If you want to support what we do here at The Whatnauts, patreon.com/The Whatnauts is the best place to do that. You can support us for as little as $1 a month. You can get all kinds of exclusive content at the $3 tier. You can also get a shout out and thank you on all of our shows at the $5 tier. You can support us on Twitch by subscribing to our channel at twitch.tv/The Whatnauts, and we would love to have you all join us for our live streams and talk with us in the chat. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a sweatshirt or a mug or something else, go to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. And we are back. A big shout out to our Patreon supporters at the $5 tier and above. So thank you, Sam, so much. We appreciate it. We love you a lot. Thanks for keeping the mics on and supporting us.
Thank
It
you.
means a lot. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Cool things that we have done here at the Whatnauts. Let's see. So I mentioned Crossplay, our video game podcast. Yeah, I have to say we had a great show this past week.
It did turn out to be
Or
very fun.
yeah, it was really cool. But I think later on today we are recording our Patreon exclusive thing for this month, so we're a little bit late on that, but it will be a check-in to our video game fantasy draft, which we have been kind of following throughout the year, and we have like a certain amount of money to bid on new games as they
Ooh.
are coming out throughout the year and stuff like that. And if a game gets like above 70 points, we get however many points it is above 70. And if it's
Huh.
below 70, we lose points on stuff like that. So there's this whole like numbers thing, and yeah, we're keeping track of that to see who wins at the end of the year and see who drafted the best games and stuff like that.
Complicated.
So yeah, that's been a lot of fun. So be on the lookout for all of that stuff. That being said, let us get into spoilers.
Yeah.
There you go. In spoilers, here we are. I mean, there's really not much exactly to spoil in terms of plot besides, hey, there's a stowaway, which the
Yeah.
name tells you.
Right.
Yeah, like that was the thing with me, is like I went into this film expecting there to be like, oh, like maybe he's there for a purpose. Maybe he's a Russian spy or something like that,
Mm.
right? Or yeah, maybe they each have their own reason for sabotaging it somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Or the stowaway is just a stowaway, but maybe Daniel Day Kim's character, he's the one that's actually the like
yeah, or like the stowaway is innocent, but somebody planted him there. Like some opposing force knew if I just
right.
stick a random guy in the ship, things are gonna go to heck.
I had one thought of like, what if he's not the only one? Like he's just
Oh
the
my
one that
God.
they found, and there's still
it's like a
someone else like
clown car.
watching.
Oh my God, you're just
Clown
gonna
car.
keep pulling people out of this tiny spaceship.
Yeah, like I was expecting some other twist, like some M. Night Shyamalan style
Yeah.
twist of there being something. And yeah, I just like, or not even like a twist, but for just more things to go wrong. Like again, like things go wrong in this film, and it goes very bad, very fast. But
Mm.
I I was thinking, what's that like George Clooney movie where they're also
Gravity.
out in space? Yeah, and like that
Or
one,
Solaris. He's been to space a couple times.
he has been. I'm thinking of Gravity, which I haven't seen,
Okay.
but in my
Me
mind
either.
is like just one thing after the next goes wrong, and then the next thing goes wrong, and the next thing goes wrong, and this only has like one main thing go wrong, and then there's like maybe two smaller things that go wrong after that. And it's not, again, it's also not like a disaster movie.
No,
like it's not meant to be
there's-
this one thing after the next goes wrong. Oh my God, how will they ever survive? But yeah,
It's
there's
all-
like, go ahead.
I want to say it's all projected. They're not
Yes.
in immediate danger, but there is a clock where they know we are going to run out of oxygen in 3 weeks. We're going to run out of food in X amount of time. Like, it's kind of slow. Like, that looms over them. There are threats that loom, but there aren't sudden, urgent threats after the guy falls out of the spaceship.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very different from what I expected, and I think looking back, I'm okay with that. I just
Mhm.
I guess it's maybe just a symptom of like what I expect from Hollywood. Maybe of like this type of movie. I'm expecting something else to go along
you
with that. But
expect
it
a
just
thriller.
was not.
Yeah,
so.
I feel like that has happened to me too. I feel like most plain dramas, I'm like, there's an element of a thrill in here too, right? And then I watch and I'm like, oh no. Oh, it was just stirring conversations among people. There was never like a double cross or anything.
Yeah. Let's talk, I think, about the stowaway first. I think his name, let me go back and get his name right here. Shamir Anderson. was the actor that played him. I'm not familiar with him.
I looked him up on IMDb because I'm like,
What
this
else has
guy
he
did a.
been in?
It was like things I had heard of, but I had never seen. It was a lot of like
Smaller
TV
characters or
shows. Like
something.
it,
Okay.
yeah, like he was on like the Dear White People show. I think he was on
Okay.
the Winona Earp show. Seems like he's just done a lot
okay.
of bit parts in a lot of places. Or maybe they were major parts in just a smaller thing I had not seen. I had never seen this guy before. But I was looking at him like, you're doing a great job. Do
He
I
was
know
phenomenal.
you from something? I hope this is a launching pad for him. I really like that performance.
Yeah, it was great. I like that is the thing of the like 4 actors in this film. I feel like it's not that bad to say like he's probably the least known
Yeah.
of the bunch. I think he was maybe the best actor in this thing. I mean, they all did phenomenal, but like
Yeah.
just man, like his just stood out to be like, man, he has this one scene where I mean he has so many good scenes. But he has one scene where Daniel Day Kim's character basically presents him with poison
Yeah.
to be like, hey, I'm not supposed to be telling you this. We're all gonna die because you're on here, and the thing that like the place that you were trapped in, like something got b- b- broken. We're not gonna have
Yeah.
enough oxygen for all of us to survive. One of us needs to die, and you weren't supposed to be here.
And I think he also includes that they have been talking about how they will need to kill him. And it's partially
Yes.
that he's telling the man this ahead of time. I'm putting it in your hands. If you would
Right.
feel more dignity doing this yourself, I want
Yes.
to give you that opportunity.
Absolutely. And yeah, just to see him immediately go from like sitting there like listening to music or
Yeah.
something, minding his own business, to just have his entire world just shattered and being like, I'm not gonna last like another day. I'm not gonna get to see the people that I love ever again.
Mm.
And just his reaction to that, it was phenomenal. I loved that scene. Um, and then there was another scene shortly after that, which actually reminded me a lot of the scene in, I believe, Avengers: Infinity War or Endgame, when Tony Stark
Oh,
is
yeah.
sending his
Yeah.
message to Pepper in the spaceship there with Nebula, and yeah, he's like in this part of the ship where there's like a big window, and he's sitting down and he's recording. I guess what he thinks is gonna be his final message to the people that he loved. I believe it was his sister or
Yeah.
his
Yeah, he is a younger sister.
yeah, and he's trying to say goodbye without actually saying goodbye, to like not let her know
Yeah.
exactly that like, hey, this is what's happening, but to just be like, hey, yeah, I'm not gonna see you for a while. Be good, stuff like that. And yeah, just like that whole scene of him just like trying to keep it together and trying to not say what's actually happening was just God, it was a gut punch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bravo to him. He was
Yeah. He's
phenomenal.
so well cast. And when we first meet him, and I was still under the impression that this was going to be some sort of a mystery thriller where there was a plot of some kind, I was like, oh, this guy, he's got such an endearing face.
He
Like,
really does.
He looks so sweet. And I'm like, this guy's either going to have an amazing heel turn or this is like a red herring and it's going to be somebody else in the cast. And then I immediately started suspecting Toni Collette. I'm like, she's it. She's behind it. It's her fault.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Like, I mean, in a strange way, I'm sure, like, if this was a real scenario, I'm sure that kind of would be the mindset of these people too, of just like every little small thing counts, and if
Yes.
one thing goes wrong, there is that I'm sure the thoughts cross their mind of like, how could you let this? Like, how could you why
Oh,
did you do
yeah.
this? Why, right? And it quickly turns to like, this is your fault or stuff like that. Um, which again, I know we sound like a broken record. That's not what we got in this,
Yeah,
but I'm sure
no, they're
like
so.
psychologically, stuff like that would have been
Yeah.
crossing their mind.
Yeah, you would expect this to like tear the team apart. You'd expect all
Yeah,
of this infighting, hoarding of supplies or something like that, like this scarcity madness. They have arguments, they've tense conversations with each other, but they all stay very level-headed. And you do have to think about how these aren't just four people. One of them's just a guy who like fell in a hole. But they were deliberately chosen and trained to keep their heads in the most stressful situations. And that is what we are seeing. It is a
yeah,
movie about
absolutely.
people keeping their heads.
Yeah, no one lost their head in this helm.
No, no, it's just sort of like not calm, but it is a tense, but civil, but very sympathetic thing going on. Like Toni Collette is, I think, the harshest of them because she's the most seasoned. This is like her third mission up into space,
Mm-hmm.
and she's the most upfront of we have to kill him. Like you can tell she doesn't like it. Just she has no
She just
disrespect
knows
for
how
the
it
guy. She's no
goes,
anim
right? Yeah.
right, yeah, no animosity. She's like, I just have to look at him like a drain on our resources, and we cannot afford it.
Yeah. And that is the like moral conundrum of this
Yeah.
film is like, should we kill this guy? How do we kill this guy? Is this the right thing to do? Like, is there another way that we can save him somehow? Uh, and yeah, I mean, they don't want to kill this guy. Like,
No.
again, you said there's no animosity towards him. It's just like, dude, you just got the short end of this stick. Like, yeah, we're
Yeah, and
so fucking
is
sorry, but at like,
yeah.
that's
And as
it.
soon as he like wakes up in space, he freaks out. But as soon as he like, it kind of gets his legs underneath him, he's like, I know I'm not supposed to be here. I know I have
Yeah,
none of the training you have, but I am going to work. Put me to work. Whatever it is you can have me do, I will do it. Like he's trying to like earn his keep there.
yeah, and he's
There's
he's
just
he's
not enough resources. He
he's
can't breathe.
he's smart too. Like, he's not just like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm a
yeah.
janitor. He's an engineer. Like, he's hoping to
Yeah.
work on these things and then go on one of these missions himself. So he's
Yeah, he's
like
just still a
training
grad
to be this
student.
way, but yeah, he's still a grad student, like you just said. So yeah, like it's interesting to see him in like in a situation where like he wants to be in eventually, but it's
Yeah.
not in the way that he wants to be in the situation, right?
Mm.
um yeah, so it's just it's a wild conundrum. And yeah, I think Toni Collette's character is maybe she so here's one of my first critiques of this.
Okay.
Toni Collette also did a phenomenal job. I think her kind of I think she did a very great job of like silently uh
Mhm.
like it's very clear that she did not want to do this. Like she was
Yeah.
so upset and so distraught, but it is in a position where she can't really voice a lot of that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I think she did a great job doing that. However, when she finds the stowaway, he falls out onto her arm, and I guess breaks it. It's not entirely clear what
Yeah, or like
happens with
maybe
that.
he knocked off
Sprains it
some like
somehow.
hot piece of equipment. Like when you look at the arm, like I couldn't
It's
tell if it
maybe
was
burned.
bruised or if it was burnt or I
Yeah.
don't know, but her arm is hurt.
Yeah, and so it kind of puts her out of commission in terms of like helping with heavy lifting or
Yeah.
moving stuff or going out into space on some you know space walk thing. And by the end of this film, which will circle back around to all the stuff that they do because they need to go get oxygen from this like
Mm,
tether thing that's out there and
yeah.
come back, and there's this solar flare and all of this stuff.
Mm.
But because of her arm, unfortunately, her character's just kind of dead weight.
I
And it's I mean, I in terms of what's happening and like all the
mm.
conundrums that they're facing, I get it. She is like, "Hey, we're down a man." That
Yeah.
is also another conundrum. But
Uh-huh.
I felt like in terms of story and like making this a more appealing story, she just felt like dead weight. It was like
She she
I don't
serves a
know.
purpose and she is a bit more standoffish than the other
Yeah.
characters. Which I could attribute it to this being her third mission. You know, she's like a little
And
she's
the
older than
commander
they are.
to just be
Yeah,
like, "Hey,
yeah, she's
you
just
guys
like a
need to
little bit
go
more
do this thing."
gruff, a little bit more by the book, a little bit more, seasoned and like to the point about things. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's also the one that is in charge of communicating back to headquarters. And something I loved about this movie, we start the movie like in the middle of like the launch process. And she's there in the pilot's chair, she's talking to ground control or whatever. We hear ground control over the radio. And then as soon as they are fully launched and actually in space, you never hear ground control again. You never hear a single voice that is not these four people. She's always
Yeah.
talking to ground control. They're communicating with them, but it's always like through an earpiece. And after they're in space, they never let you
One-sided.
hear what's on the earpiece, which
Yeah.
is, I think, a great choice. That as soon as
Yeah.
they cross that threshold, any other sound of Earth dies away.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of scenes where it's Toni Collette just pacing around with a Bluetooth in, tensely communicating to like Jim at the headquarters desk, which is
And
uh,
don't get me wrong,
which is
again, she
mhm.
had a phenomenal
Yeah,
performance in those scenes where she's just like completely just like, God, there has to be something.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
fuck, I can't just be like, okay, we need to kill you. But she also has that like, I'm the commander of the ship. This is what they're telling me to do. I need to relay this to my crew. Like, I'm not the one making the decision here, but I also have to be the one that stands behind it. And
yeah. And she has all of her breakdowns in private. She like
yes,
doesn't really let the rest of the crew see how freaked out she is.
yeah, and phenomenal performance. But at the
Mm.
end of the film, I was just like, she didn't really do much, huh? Like she just
I,
kind of stood there and paced, and I was like, okay,
yeah, yeah. Situationally, she does end up being a little bit less active than the rest of the crew. But this is something that made me feel suspicious of her back when I thought this movie was going to be a
oh,
thriller.
okay, interesting.
Because she's the only one talking to headquarters. I mean, I
Of
think
like,
as soon as they get up
what
in
if
space,
she's
there's a scene where
changing the narrative somehow?
right. Or and like I said, we don't hear
Interesting.
the other
Yeah,
side of the conversations. How much of this is we're hearing something out of context or like she's putting on a front. She talks to Jim and then she stops talking to Jim and she calls over to somebody else. And she's like, okay, well, I gave that story to Jim. What I was like, I was expecting
Mm.
a flashback at the end of the movie that's like the other side of these conversations, or after she hung up with Jim, then she called somebody else and she said this. And I
Yeah.
thought that level of standoffishness would make her a culprit. And then, as it turns out, there's no culprit. It's just a terrible accident. That's all the movie
They're a
is.
victim of circumstance.
Yeah, yeah. Nobody's at fault. Nobody's doing anything suspicious.
Yeah.
Hmm.
It's you know when you've like written a paper in school or something and your teacher is like this is good. Now take it one step further,
Yeah.
right? I don't want to say this is a case where they stopped short. This is
No.
absolutely them taking it all the way in a certain direction and
Right.
doing it
Yeah.
really, really well. But yeah, it feels like in a strange way, it feels like it's a deliberate choice to do that instead of
Yes.
like I'm gonna have this twist and pull the rug and stuff like that. So I appreciate it for that, and it does really feel deliberate in all of the choices that they are making
Yeah.
with this. So
Hmm.
good on them. Daniel Day Kim.
Ah,
Let's talk
lovely.
about him.
Great to
He's
see.
the botanist in
Hmm.
this one. I believe he was a Harvard grad in this one.
Yes. And Anna
Um,
Kendrick's character is from Yale. And there's a bit at the
yes.
beginning of the movie that I thought was excellent setup where she like brings him a cup of coffee and it's in a Yale mug. And he's like, you only have so many grams of personal effects that you are allowed to bring up into space. And you spent it on this to tease me. He's like, you don't even care about this. And she's like, yeah, I don't. But I know
But
you
you
do.
do.
Like
Yeah.
she's the heart of the team. She's the one kind of keeping up the morale, and so she knows that he's like playfully competitive. So she's like, "Oh, I'll bring him this Yale mug to tease him. It'll be a fun game to keep us entertained for 2 years."
Yeah. Yeah. But so he is I I don't want to say he's super stoic in this. I mean, they
Mm,
all have to be super detail
yeah.
oriented, but he is the botanist that is like growing plants and stuff
Mm,
on the ship to see how they act out in space or out on Mars when they get there and stuff like that. And one of the first things that the Stowaway has to help with is his
uh-huh.
work, and they're sitting down taking these measurements and readings and all this stuff, and it is just it's so boring, it's tedious, and you can tell the
Yeah.
Stowaway is just like, man, this sucks. Like I don't like look, I'm happy to like like pull my own weight, but man, what you do here is boring as hell. But then they have another great moment um where they are playing some music out loud, and the Stowaway is just like, man, what kind of garbage music is this? And he's just like, excuse you. Like this is jazz, this is the classics, like the greats. Like they're all so completely different, and they each go down their own path, but they each still somehow manage to come together and make a strong team. And every once in a while you'll hear one of them kind of go off and do their own thing. And I kind of saw that as a metaphor for the team that was there on the
Mm,
ship. I don't necessarily think it was a strong one. I don't necessarily think it was one that they particularly played out. But it was this idea of like, yeah, all these characters are for not knowing much about them, they are
yeah.
all very different people and all in
Hmm.
very different situations. Um,
Yeah.
and to see them come together and work as this team to try and figure things out was neat to see. But yeah, the
I,
Stowaway. Not a fan of jazz.
I
So
liked that scene a lot. I've seen La La Land. I've seen Soul. That one scene made me understand jazz a lot more than anything else
there you
has.
go.
And it put it in a context that I could really
Kids on
understand.
the Slope, Melissa. Kids on the
I,
Slope. We did that a long
what,
time ago.
what
Great
this
anime.
movie
Go
did,
watch that one.
what this movie did, and this is like real wild, like freestyle jazz, and that's what Stowaway's upset about. It's that this real
It just
kind of screechy, noodly saxophone, and he's like, "How do you listen to this all day?" And Daniel Day Kim, we have to say his full name. Maybe one day we'll know him well enough to just call him Daniel. But we
Daniel, friend of the show.
We love you, Daniel. He's talking about how that's what he loves about it, that it is unexpected, that it can deviate so much, that they play by rules. If you're aware of the canon of jazz, you kind of know what's going to happen, but there's so much variety and surprise in it. And I thought, oh, that's the perfect music to listen to when you're doing very monotonous tasks in space. I get it. I get why it's this music and not anything else. That surprise and adventure of jazz is there to keep him engaged, keep him active, keep his brain from like dulling out while he just does the same little scientific task over and over again. I'm like, this really helped me understand the value of freeform jazz.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I just think that because of the mug moment and the jazz moment, Daniel Day Kim's character is, to be honest, I think arguably the one we end up knowing the most. Besides, well, I mean, I think arguably you could also say the Stowaway, and I think arguably you could also say Anna Kendrick's character, but no one else has those kind of moments. Like he gets both of them.
He gets
I
like
thought
the
that
most
was interesting.
He gets a lot of backstory laid out for him. You do know his personality pretty well. You know, he's from Harvard. He loves
jazz,
Harvard. He's kind of competitive with other people who went to like other Ivy League schools. He loves his freeform jazz. He talks about listening to it with his wife. I think his wife got him into it. So you've got that sense of I think besides his Stowaway's sister, like that wife is the only sense of home and family that we know of these astronauts getting back to. I don't think Anna Kendrick or Toni Collette mention any family members or loved ones. And he's also so devoted to his work. He's going to like grow these little like microgreens, and when they get to Mars, he's going to try and like plant them and then grow this algae, like create nourishment, create oxygen. And he says that he's been working on this for years. Like this is his life's work. And there's a nice bit where Anna Kendrick teases him about the Stowaway helping him with these tests, where she's like, if you publish any of your research, you're going to have to share co-authorship with him. You won't get to be a solo author on this paper, which I don't know if that's true.
At least be like, hey, I had some help in this. Here was the situation. But
right. I got to tell you, as somebody who works in academic publishing, that might be acknowledgement areas. I don't know if he's going to get to be co-author just because he like helped pull a lot of test tubes.
Agree with that, but
who knows? I'm not a scientist.
That is the relationship that those two characters have of just like, hey, you're not gonna get to do that all on your own anymore. She's like, right? She's like nudging him, and he's just like, shut up.
And he's devoted to this life's work, and he's so upset that he has to tear it apart. And like he's got these things that were designed to like plant on Mars, and they mentioned that there's already been some unmanned ship that like flew supplies up to Mars for them to meet there, right? And he's like, I don't have all of my equipment here. I only have so many samples. I was saving those for Mars, but he knows I have to start this now. Like we need this algae to like generate oxygen for us now. I have to wreck this work I was going to do on Mars. I have to tear apart the microgreens to get soil or nutrients or some sort of resources for this algae project.
Yeah.
Like, he tears apart everything that he's been working on, and he's so upset about it. Like, he keeps mentioning, like, this is my life's work. All I ever wanted to do was this, and I've lost that opportunity. Like, he's got maybe a bit more of an ego than the other characters, but it's really understandable because what this life's work is, it isn't just the prestige of it. It's also, I want to make sure that people can go to space and eat and breathe. Like, his ultimate
And
goal is
survive, yeah.
very altruistic. It's not the loss of prestige for him. It's the loss of, I've been devoting my life to helping humanity at large. And I understand now that I have to prioritize the lives of these other immediate people around me, but I can't stop thinking about that loss to humankind.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, just think if he had gotten to do his work that could further along these missions so that they learn something else and they can get there faster or they can live there longer or like stuff like there's so many advances that could happen because of this seemingly monotonous work
Mm,
that he can do. Um and yeah, like to then see that like, hey, I'm gonna have to rip this up and tear it up,
yeah.
and if I survive, that it's gonna be like another, I don't know, like 10 years of my life to be able to do the same thing, and who knows if
Yeah.
he's even gonna be capable of that at that point there. So yeah, it's just like it's heartbreaking for him to have to rip those up, and then we get that scene when we know that half of the algae has
Oh,
died, and this is like like arguably maybe the only other like not twist but like reveal, right, where he pushes back the cart that
yes.
you know the one that didn't survive, to reveal the first cart that we thought survived has now all completely died as
That's a great
well.
shot. I
Yeah,
love the
that was
composition of
wonderful.
that shot. I love just the clean visual language of bags of green algae, good. Bags of brown algae, bad. And he just like pushes a piece of equipment out of the way and you see the two brown carts and you're filled with
Yeah, you're just like,
despair.
oh shit, yeah, no. Um, yeah, I loved that
Mm,
moment. I thought that was a great scene because again, Tony Collette's character just great job of just silently portraying the anger and
yeah. Yeah.
frustration of just like, we are in the just godforsaken mission, like just
Yeah.
everything is going wrong, and she just silent,
Yeah. She's
and it's
great
just
at
like,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Just silently
great stuff there.
fuming the entire movie.
Yeah.
And Anna
uh
Kendrick, let's get to her.
yeah.
We haven't talked about her as much. She's the heart of the film. She's arguably the protagonist. She's the first person we meet, the last person we're left with at the end of the movie. She's the medical doctor.
Mhm.
And as soon as they get up to space, they like change into their nice polo shirts with the logo on it. And they have this like video call back to Earth. Seems like this is the PR call. Like, we're going to talk to the public, give a statement to the news now that we're here in space. And she mentions that she only applied to this because she thought it would be a funny story to talk about how she got rejected by the company's called Hyperion. It seems like it's a NASA equivalent. It's not clear if it's governmental or privately owned,
Right.
but she's
I
like,
mean,
I
like,
thought it would be funny for me to tell people I got rejected by Hyperion, but
how
instead they
many
accepted me.
how many people can put on their
Right.
resume that like, hey, I applied to be an astronaut, I got rejected, but I applied, like I
I met the
almost made it.
criteria. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. um so like, yeah, like that is kind of a, like, she is, as you say, the heart and soul, but I think she is the most like childlike. I don't know the age of them, but she is the most like
Sh-
fun loving.
I
Like
th- I
I'm
think
gonna
she's.
tease you and make fun of you and have fun with you over
I'm
here.
not
And
sure. I think Anna Kendrick is approximately our age, maybe slightly older. So I don't know if this was the first thing she was in, but she's like one of the classmates in the Twilight movies, which I
okay,
think the first movie came out when I was like in 11th grade. So it does like it matches up. I think she's approximately our
just
age.
slightly
And I
older.
was
Yeah,
wondering, like, did you grow up with Lost like we did, Anna Kendrick? Are you also very excited to work with somebody from Lost?
with Daniel Day Kim. Yeah.
Wow.
Um, yeah, she was a great character, and I think she kind of serves the purpose of uh, being the one that introduces Chekhov's gun in this film, kind of. This whole the whole thing about like the Yale mugs,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Because what happens is they have to go get oxygen
Mm.
from the tether on the opposite side of their ship. So their ship is on one side. There's this like central satellite thing that they are
Yeah.
attached to, and then a tether on the opposite end. And what is happening is it's spinning super
Mm.
fast, and that's creating centripetal force, which
Yeah.
makes gravity a false one
Mm.
on their ship. So they have to go across the like tethers to this thing on the opposite end to get oxygen and come back.
Mm.
And she is one of the people that go on that mission, along with Daniel Day Kim. And on their way back, a solar flare starts up, and they have to race back to the ship. They have to leave one of the tanks behind, um, and she ends up dropping that first tank
Oh,
that they have, and just in a like another just gut punch. I'm just like, no, like
right.
how do you
And
drop
like
that? No. Ah!
everything's so simple. Like none of the things that go wrong in this movie are true failures. It's all just happenstance. It's like the
Mm-hmm.
simplest little task. It's not like you were ill-equipped for the job. You tried and you failed. It's like you literally just let something slip out of your hands once and that's the
Yeah,
end. You
but
bumped your
that's the thing.
head
That's
and
all it
fell
takes.
down. That's it.
That's all it takes, though.
Ugh.
Um, and it sucks. And so yeah, they have this conundrum of like, we went out to go get oxygen from this thing. We've now lost half of that, and well, I mean, basically they lost it all because they lost that one
Yeah.
tank and then the solar flare. And then the conundrum is like, hey, we can still go get that second tank. The issue is whoever goes and gets that second tank is not going to survive. Like because of the
Right.
solar flare, there's going to be enough radiation where you're going to die.
Yeah, and
You
it's
you
not
can
clear like they can't
you
forecast
can
when a solar flare ends exactly. It seems like maybe it's something where the radiation would hang
right,
around
yeah,
for a long time and they don't know if the tank would still be there if they had to come back in a week.
yeah, um, yeah, and so she has seen Daniel Day Kim's character kind of struggle to make that trip there and
Yeah.
back, 'cause they have to like shimmy up and down these
Oh,
poles and stuff like that, and it's
I
it's it's
liked
a
that. I
lot
liked
of
how
work.
much physical work was involved, that it's not just an act of bravery. It's not just, all right, put on your suit and go float into the void until you get to this other little satellite. It's like, no, you have to physically like climb and like raise up, lift the weight of your body in this giant spacesuit. Like it is a feat. It is exhausting.
Yeah, yeah, um, and she is the one that goes out on this second trip to go get the tank. Uh, and she gets it. She brings it back, but yeah, she can't go back inside because of the amount of
Yeah.
radiation that she's had. And so she just sits down and lets the radiation burn her and stuff like that. But she has that kind of like final, like, hey guys, like, you know, survive, do this for me, tell your loved ones, all that you
I
love
love
them,
it.
and
She
all that
hugs
stuff. And
Daniel
then
Day Kim and she
and
tells
it's like,
him,
hey,
go home to your wife, have kids, send them to
send them to
Yale.
Yale. Yeah, which I thought was a great line.
Yeah.
That's what I mean by the Chekhov's gun thing of just
Yeah,
send
I
them
think
to
that was
Yale.
yeah. It set up that
Which if
character moment, and I think that was also like a great introductory point early in the film to say how scarce space, physical space and resources are on this ship. Like he's like, you brought this one mug. Do you know how much that might cost us? Think about
so
all the other things you could have brought instead of a mug.
I don't know if this is exactly tied to this school. I'm assuming it is, but one of the production companies on this film is Yale Productions.
I did
So
see that. Yeah.
yeah, it might have just been a like, hey, like, yeah, this is a scientific film. Yeah, we'll help you out with getting the science right and stuff like that. But yeah, maybe have a line in there about send your kids to Yale to
Yeah.
get
Yeah,
get
I
those
didn't know. I was
admissions
also
up.
like, is Yale somebody's last name? Unsure.
Send them to Yale, Stephanie Yale. They'll save us all. Fly, you fools. Um,
Yeah.
but
What a great final line.
yeah, it like I really really enjoyed that moment of the film. I thought that was a
Mm,
great
yeah.
moment because at the end of the day, it was, hey, the life support system that makes oxygen
Mm,
is fucked up beyond all repair. The algae that they were hoping to then give them enough oxygen for all four of them to survive didn't work. So now they're back down to only three people will survive. Then they can't get these oxygen tanks. So now only three of them will survive. But yeah, it just at the end of the day, there's three of them that survive. It's still gonna be really tight and really
yeah.
tough, but they have a chance
Yes.
now. Um, and it like, yeah, like we don't really get to see what happens or if they do
No.
survive. We just get to
No.
sit with this like just lost one of our crew members, and it, now what? Like now we
Yeah.
just have to sit here and like sit with that and stew of like, hey, we just
Hmm.
had a crew member sacrifice themselves to make sure that we survive. Um, and that is the like at the end of the day when you are done with this film, you just sit with that like the characters on the ship, and you're just like, huh,
It's
okay,
it's a lot. It's a big ending, but I think it's a
yeah,
little bit it's got more hope to it than that, I think, because we see Anna Kendrick out there
it's
just
hopeful,
sitting
sure,
on
yeah,
top of the spaceship, just slowly getting burned. Well, not slowly. I think it takes like 10 minutes. She gets burned to death. But she's got this look on her face like of contentedness, like I know I did the right thing. Like from
yeah,
the second the problem was introduced, I feel confident that I always did what was best for everybody involved. And there is a sort of sense of wonder on her face just for the beauty of space. Like the way the solar flare is illustrated, it's all these like faint swirling like lights and colors. She's
yeah.
amazed at the beauty of it. And even, I think there's some gratitude there for, wow, it's going to kill me, but I am seeing something no other human being has ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this: they
Mm,
made the choice to include a line from the film at the start, which we had mentioned, is
mm,
the like, hey, I applied to this to just, be a joke and get
Mm,
rejected, but they picked me. Um, and they choose to replay that line as she's kind of staring off into space at the Earth and being like, "Well, these are my final moments."
mm.
How did you feel about that inclusion?
It's not a very long movie. So, in one hand, I felt like it was kind of handholdy, like, hey, remember this? And I'm like, I do. That only happened 70 minutes ago. Yeah, I recall that that's what she said. But also, I think about the purpose of when she said that. It seems like it's in this message that they're giving to the public. That is probably how the public would eulogize her. When news comes down about this astronaut that had to sacrifice herself to save her
She was a good
comrades after
person,
this
she did the right
amazing
thing.
situation, like
Yeah.
that's going to be the clip of her that is quoted in newspapers, like played on the news, that like kids in school are going to watch and think about.
I agree with you that that is yeah, that is what she will probably be
Mm,
remembered for in news footage stuff, to be like, this is a person who loved to have fun, like she just thought this was a joke, all
mhm.
that stuff, but she made it and she did some
Yeah.
incredible stuff, right? However, I don't know if I liked the inclusion of that
Mm,
line there at the end, because it is this idea of like, I did this for a joke. And it is this like, does her mentioning this like it are like it made me wonder if the film was trying to convey like, all of this is just a big cosmic joke,
I
or stuff like that,
don't
which I don't
think
think it
so.
necessarily is, but it like
Yeah,
it's a
it's not
thought
a
that crossed my
cynical
mind.
movie.
Right, it's
Yeah,
not
I think
cynical,
it's
but it just it didn't sit with me well, of just, yeah, it made those thoughts cross my mind, even though I know that's not what it was going for, of like, well, all of this was just supposed to be a joke. Now
it
look
made
where
me think about
now look
how
where we are.
she did this to have like a funny story to tell people.
Yeah.
Like I applied to like the most prestigious space program in the world when I'm just an MD. I thought it would be funny to like have that. This is out on my resume. Tell it to people at cocktail parties or whatever. This
Boom, you're
feels like
looking
kind
for
of like
this?
what her death is. What an amazing death to tell people about. It's very sad that she's dead, but to
Yeah.
go out
Yeah.
in that way, it seems like a reflection of that. To be flunked, to be rejected from a program, but to be rejected by that program, that's something to say about it. But and it's sad that she died. But yeah, what a story to like pass down. Like centuries from now, all her descendants are going to remember how great grandma Anna Kendrick died.
Absolutely. Um I think my only other critique of this film is, yeah, it's not super long, but it felt long to me.
Sometimes it did, yeah.
It's slow. It's a very, very slow movie. It's not an action movie. It's not a thriller. It's not. It's right.
No.
Like it's not something that is gonna make you like grip the edge of your seat and make time fly by. It is tense, but it's very slow. And
Hmm.
I think because of that, the pacing of this film just didn't. It seemed like it had some issues there. It started out fine, and then it just slowed down immensely. Um,
I,
and
hmm.
it just kind of grounded to a halt, in my opinion. There.
I
What
did
did you
find
think?
myself often checking how much time was left in the movie, but I think that's just because I was curious about what its act structure was and like when certain
Okay.
things happened. I'm like, okay, it's this many minutes in when we meet the stowaway. It's this many minutes in when I think Tony Collette may be behind it. She was not. Tony Collette is innocent.
Hey, maybe in the sequel we find out she was. Who knows? If they make a sequel.
No, I like this as it is, just as the standalone space parable.
Yeah, yeah. It's an interesting one because again, I didn't walk away with this super high on the film, but yeah, like the performances were incredible, and it was well acted, and man, the moral problem
Mm-hmm.
that they have to face. God, I have no idea what I would do
Yeah.
in a
Ugh.
situation
Yeah,
like that.
and I like that this is the context in which that happens because it's a situation none of us will ever find ourselves in. So you're able to engage with the narrative but not feel like haunted late at night like what would I do? What sort of person does it make me if I made such a choice in this space? Because you're never going to be there.
Am
Average
I
Joe
a
ain't going to space.
am I a Daniel Day Kim or am I an Anna Kendrick?
The two
Or am I a
sides of
Tony
man.
Collette? I'm Tony Collette, aren't I? Oh man, what does that say about me? It's something I'm never gonna get to experience, and that it makes it a step removed, which kind of makes me feel better about
Yeah.
myself that I'm not gonna have to be in that situation, right? Um,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I mean, like at the end of the day, it is just like, hey, like how do you act when you are put in an impossible situation? Um,
Mhm.
so I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be that one there. And yeah, it is a very somber, kind of melancholy film, but yeah, like it's not completely devoid of hope though.
No, I think it does have some sweetness to it. Yeah, and Anna Kendrick definitely brings it. The Stowaway talking about his relationship with his sister is very touching.
Yep.
No, he has this I think when he was like 9 and his sister was like a baby, there was an apartment fire, he got all these burns. Seems like their mother was already dead or gone and then their dad dies and so when he turned 18, he like formally adopted his younger sister to make sure he could always take care of her and that's like the
Yeah,
first thing he thinks of when he gets to space is where I can't be up here. I can't leave my sister alone.
absolutely.
Mhm.
I think that's all I have to say on Stowaway though.
My only
Do you
final
have
thing, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode how sweaty I am. I did watch this movie and I remarked on how matte everybody's skin was.
interesting? Okay.
Oh, like everybody just looked great. I think the fact that this movie was as stressful as it was and nobody was ever sweaty stood out to me. I guess
I
I don't know if you just don't sweat in space.
there's I mean I guess there's it's a vacuum, so there wouldn't really be moisture, but they're
I
inside their
guess
ship,
so,
so
yeah.
I don't know.
No humidity in space. I don't know.
Interesting.
But
In
this
space, no one can see you sweat.
just on a technical level, I think this movie had wonderful performances. I think it's shot beautifully. The scenes where they go out into space look amazing in that they're very simple, like except for the solar flare at the end, like there's not cosmos or color. It is just this like stark black with all these pinpricks and the way they move around in space was compelling. Just among the many great technical achievements of this movie, I also want to cite the makeup for just making everybody so matte all the time.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. That is Stowaway on Netflix.
I recommend
Um,
it. I was impressed.
Alyssa, we gotta check in on Bingo,
We
on the review
do.
show Bingo. We play bingo each and every week here on the review show with a bunch of different movie tropes and comic book tropes and all sorts of stuff like that. Melissa's card is different from mine, so we each have a
Mm.
little bit of stuff on there. Right now, we're just kind of in the experiment phase of like, let's just see how many bingos we can get on a single
Yeah.
card to see how this can go here. So I have one bingo so far. Melissa, I believe you have one as well.
Yeah.
Did you get anything that you can mark down on?
I think I have two things. I think I can get Guy in the chair for Jim down at headquarters, even though he's not really a character, but he is an entity that is felt through Toni Collette's one-sided conversations. The fact that it's always specifically one guy, like she's not calling the entire like control team. She's always talking to one person.
That one guy, yeah.
I think I'd give myself that. I think I would also give myself, why are you telling me this? For the scene where Anna Kendrick starts telling the Stowaway about, okay, so one summer I worked as this beach watcher. I wasn't a lifeguard because you weren't supposed to swim in the beach, but I was just there to sort of watch it and make sure nobody was acting up. Like I put, why are you telling me this on here? For situations where a character suddenly starts telling you this long personal story, and it takes a while for you to figure out what the purpose of it is. This is a very Lost thing. I think about Locke telling Boone, my sister Jeannie died when I was a kid, and Boone just stares at him while he keeps talking, and at the end he's like, why are you telling me this, John? What was that for?
Yeah.
So I feel like this is as close as I've gotten to that spirit.
Okay. Unfortunately, I don't think I have anything. The closest thing I could get to is a locked room mystery or episode, but it's not a mystery. And right, like they are kind of in just one set. Like they are in one place though. So I don't know. Like I to me that's not exactly the same though. Just because you're in a singular space doesn't necessarily mean, well, I mean it's the entire movie, so I guess it's an episode. They certainly
I feel like this wouldn't fit because we've spent this whole conversation talking about how this is a situation with no culprit.
Yeah. But that's the thing. Like, does a locked room episode need to be a mystery though?
Oh,
because we have it down as locked room mystery or episode.
I feel like there's a difference between a locked room mystery and a bottle episode.
I think it kind of combines them into one though, because when we made this, we also had in mind the one from Mr. Robot, where it's more like a play. It's all just in that one room, or those like two rooms in that house, because we had that in mind. And there's no, it's like that is not a mystery of like who killed who. They are trying to investigate his past and stuff in that one, but it's not like a mystery.
Yeah, I would give this I would call this a bottle movie, since you were entirely within a spaceship and on something attached to the spaceship. You were never on Earth. You were never on Mars.
Touching a spaceship at all times.
Yeah, and especially because once they cross the threshold into space, like you never hear from headquarters. The Stowaway talks to his sister, but you never see what he sees on the little iPad screen. You never hear her voice. Yeah, this is a bottle for sure.
Okay. So can I give myself that one then?
I give you that.
That's
then.
the only one that I have.
If we're specifying that it is bottle episodes, perhaps including locked room mysteries, this isn't that, but it's a bottle.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I got. All right, cool. I got locked room mystery or episode marked down. Hell yeah.
So I still only have one bingo, but I am closing in on not many things left on my sheet. I still have to get Ancient Evil, No Time to Eat Breakfast. An object is thrown and off screen you hear glass breaking and or a cat meowing. A superhero fight goes through a building. An actor plays themselves. A ghost! And if you're here and I'm here, then who's driving the bus?
Yeah, I have ones like a courtroom scene, which I know you have marked down, but I was absent when that happened. The vehicle in peril, death by electrocution, electrocution,
Man.
robot blamed for murder, didn't realize my own strength, and
Oh,
then
yeah, that's a
character
good
who
one.
gets stuck with a kid.
Mm.
So there you
But
go.
man,
So
we are
that's
having a big year for mysterious scars.
we certainly are. Yeah. Lots of mysterious scars here. So yeah, that is our update for bingo. Um, there you go with that. Melissa, let's get on to recommendations.
Mm.
What might you recommend for people who liked this and enjoyed it, or want to see something else very similar? I know at the start we mentioned The Vast of Night,
Yeah,
which
I think
is
it's totally
on
similar.
Prime. Yeah, it's
Yep.
very similar. In tone, it's very somber. It's like 1950s, 60s ish is when I believe it takes place. And yeah, there is this threat of an alien invasion. There's this like late night radio show that is kind of investigating it as people are calling in, and then
Mm.
they go uh, to talk with all of these people, and at the end, it just kind of leaves you with this, huh? Okay, so that's how it went.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Huh. Okay. And so yes, I some people might not like it
Mm.
because of that. Some people, I think, like Melissa pointed out, will like it because they stuck with just this one path
Yeah.
and did that to its extent. Um, but yeah, that is one I think we can both recommend, and we covered that on the review show. Let me see here.
About this time last year, I think.
I think so. Vast of Night. When did we do that? August 5th, 2020 on number 117 of the review show.
Mm-hmm.
So go check that one out.
I
Melissa, do you have any other recommendations?
Yeah. When you first told me about this movie, it reminded me of a short story I read in like ninth grade English called The Cold Equations. Have you ever read this?
I have not. Never heard
Oh,
of it.
I had to Google it. So if I've looked distracted during recording, it's because I was like, wait a minute, I got to look up any actual information about this story I read when I was 15.
Yeah.
The Cold Equations is a science fiction short story by American writer Tom Goodwin, first published in Astounding Magazine in August 1954. Wikipedia says the story takes place entirely aboard an emergency dispatch ship headed for a frontier planet with a load of desperately needed medical supplies. The pilot discovers a stowaway, an 18-year-old girl. By law, all stowaways are to be jettisoned because these vessels carry no more fuel than is absolutely necessary to land safely at their destination. The girl merely wants to see her brother, as he's on the planet or whatever, was not aware of the law. When she boarded the ship and saw the unauthorized personnel keep out sign, she just thought she would have to pay a fine if she were caught. The pilot explains that her presence dooms the mission by exceeding the weight limit, and the subsequent crash would kill both of them and doom the colonists awaiting the medical supplies. After contacting her brother for the last moments of her life, the girl willingly walks into the airlock and is ejected into space.
And
Which feels like this, where you're confronted with a moral problem, but it feels bad, but you know what the solution is, and you just have to proceed toward the solution.
yeah.
It turns out, looks like this was also adapted into a Twilight Zone episode, which I don't think I've ever seen.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I recommend that.
Would be a good one. Yeah.
At least as much as it stuck with me since I read the story in ninth grade. At least the concept of it. I can't speak to the quality of writing itself, but that the central problem has always stuck with me. And I would also recommend Apollo 13. I just watched that
There's a good
recently.
One, yeah.
They go up to space, and that's one where we do spend a lot of time on the ground. I appreciate how small and contained this movie was, but I was curious to see what is ground control doing? How are they scrambling around to try and figure out this problem? And
Yeah,
Apollo 13 is you're up there in space with these three guys and you're on ground watching Clint Howard try and suddenly engineer something with a box of scraps.
absolutely.
I recommend that. And then
Um,
also the Simpsons episode Deep Space Homer, where Homer goes to space.
Perfect. Good. Good. Yes.
That's also important. I was watching this movie and thinking about how many other space movies I should be recommending, but I've never seen them. So I tried
Right.
to, but I couldn't find any of them streaming anywhere. It's like I couldn't find The Martian or Moon, any place that was convenient and wasn't going to
Yeah.
cost me $4.
The Martian would be a good one. I've never seen that one, so I personally can't
Me
recommend
either.
it.
No,
Um,
he goes to
but I
space,
know
he
what
makes
it's about.
potatoes.
Yeah.
He's not supposed
Space
to be in
taters.
space. I got to get him back down.
Um, I want to recommend an anime called Planets, I believe is how you
Huh.
pronounce it. It's Planets, but it's spelled Planetes
Hmm.
at the end. So there's like an es at the end. Yeah. Um, but that is kind of about this guy who I believe works as like a, for lack of better terms, like space janitor, like picking up all of
Mm-hmm.
the space trash and stuff like that. But he's trying to kind of train and be like a normal astronaut and go on like actual missions and stuff like that. And it's not filled with like a big moral conundrum or stuff like that, but it is a like like slice of life drama about this guy just like wanting to do more out in space, and there are some problems that come up, but none like what we saw here in
Mm-hmm.
this film. But it's also not super like fantastical, of like, oh my god, they're shooting ray guns and stuff like that. It's very like small hard science with
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And that was an interesting one. I watched it a handful of years ago now, just because it was like, hey, I'm a big fan of like Gundam and space stuff, that like maybe I should check out this other space thing that's out here. And it was very different from Gundam stuff, so don't expect all of that. But it was, yeah, just very, no pun intended, down to earth sci-fi.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, it was good. I would recommend that. And then if you do want something that is maybe a little bit more fantastical, I just got done watching all of The Expanse on
Yeah.
Prime, and I've recommended that a lot recently because it is very good. Um, and yeah, that is very hard science. There is, in season one, there is a scenario where, yeah, they are stuck in this ship and they don't have enough oxygen to survive, and they need to come up with a way to get more or share it or do this or that or somehow, send out a distress beacon, and stuff like that. And it is out in space, and there's a discovery that is made out in space that kind of changes the way humanity is going to live their lives and stuff like that. So it's an interesting one. Go check
Hmm.
out The Expanse.
Yeah.
But there you go. That is recommendations for if you guys liked Stowaway.
Mm-hmm.
Melissa, next week, the end of the month, it's our end of the month special. We have been
Uh-huh.
preparing something special. Do you want to tell them a little bit about this book that we are reading?
Yeah, we are reading our first prose book after often describing ourselves as a book club style show. Then we read plenty of comics, but we wanted to try reading a book with just words and no pictures.
Yeah.
I think there's a couple pictures at the end of the appendices, but We are reading House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski, I believe. This is a whole heck of a book. It's very long. So we needed like an entire month to prepare for it. Yeah, it's a big boy. It's about a family who moves into a farmhouse in Virginia, Kyle, and the home of Kyle. We've stumbled across a lot of Virginia-based terrible encounters over the last year or so.
Yep. Cannibal.
They move into a new house,
Wolf Trap, Virginia.
and there's something wrong with the house. And the father, a photojournalist, begins documenting their experiences in the house. Supposedly, the documentary was released. The whole academic community started talking about this film, writing all these papers about it. This old man was writing a book that's about the documentary and all the academic discussion around it. He dies, and his notes go to like his neighbor's friend, who's like some young punk party hard dude who lives in Los Angeles. And this guy feels compelled to take all these random papers and really bring them together into something. So it is a journal about a book, about a documentary, about a house. It goes real many levels deep. The thing's full of footnotes and strangely arranged text and colors and like crossed out words. And it's a lot. It's a lot to contend
kind of
with, and I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah,
it's
boy,
not.
This is
it's
the
not
weirdest
a
book
normal
I've ever
novel.
read.
It pushes the envelope in terms of like what is a novel actually, like how can I present this story and stuff like that. So we'll get into all of that this next week. But yeah, it is a horror.
It is
book. There are some scenes in there that are pretty horrific and creepy, and stuff like that. It's an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, the house is not haunted. The house itself is architecturally impossible. That's what they have to contend with.
Yeah, it's like this existential horror of impossibility. Yeah, so it's an interesting one. I'm excited to talk about it this next week, especially since we have not covered like a legit book on the show before. So House of Leaves is the name of the book. That's what we will be discussing this next week. I still have a bunch of the book to read since it's a big, well, not a bunch. I've made significant progress. So I don't have all that much left. But yeah, it is a big boy. So that is what we will be up to this next week. However, the week after that, I believe you guys have talked about. I don't know where you guys came up with the idea. If this was on the captain's log that you guys mentioned it. Or,
this was on the captain's log. We had a discussion. I think the first week Kyle was on vacation. It was me and Ignacio and Alan, and they got into a big fight over the Digimon movie.
As they have
Alan
before,
likes it.
Plenty of other times on crossplay.
Yeah. And so we are, first weekend of September, we are sitting down to talk about the Digimon movie, the American release, and all of the original Japanese movies and specials that this American movie was edited together into. We're going to watch this kind of patchwork of of an American released film and then all of its original source material.
Yeah. So it's gonna be some interesting stuff, and I know both Ignacio and Alan will be joining the show for that one. They're kind of taking over to do that one. I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna be on this one. I will at least be there to record the show and stuff like that, so I might
I'll be on
watch it. Just to,
I have Digimon thoughts
to keep up with the conversation. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. If I am on the show, we haven't had 4 people be on the show at once.
Oh, yeah.
So that'll be interesting. to say the least. But yeah, it's going to be a Digimon takeover the first week in September. Yeah, get excited about that stuff. Then we got some more cool things happening in September, or should I say Shame-tember, down the road. So
Shame-tember is back.
Keep your eyes and ears open for all of that stuff. Exciting stuff is happening. I'm looking forward to it all. But Melissa, where can they find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities, where me and my brother Jams talk about weird old kids shows you feel like only you remember. Our most recent episode was on an anime that I think aired in like the Jetix block that was on like Disney XD or something. I don't remember, but we're watching the anime Obon Star Racers.
Lone Star Racers. Interesting. Never heard of that. Wild. Okay, cool. Good stuff. If you guys want to stay up to date with me, I am at YoKyleSpringer on Twitter. And if you guys want to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So go like, share, subscribe, do all of that stuff. You guys know the deal. Yeah, this has been fun. This was a good discussion this week, I believe. I had a lot of fun. But that's about it for number 171 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you all next week. Bye.
Bye.